The diner fell silent. Every conversation stopped mid-sentence. Even the cook froze with his spatula in the air. The little black girl stood beside the table of the most dangerous man in Chicago, her hand reaching toward his coffee cup. "Will you come to my birthday?" Han Seo-jin, the untouchable Korean Mafia boss who made grown men tremble, looked down at 5-year-old Imani Rowan. Her brown eyes held no fear, just hope. What happened next would shake the criminal underworld of Chicago. This is the story of how an innocent question from a child who never had a birthday party changed the life of a man who never celebrated his own. Han Seo-jin had been coming to Rosie's diner for 8 months. Same table, same time, same order. Black coffee, no sugar. Grilled cheese sandwich. Never a word more than necessary. The diner sat in the heart of Chicago's South Side, wedged between a laundromat and a check-cashing place. Not the kind of establishment where you'd expect to find a man who owned half the luxury real estate in the city. But that was precisely why he came. At 31, Han had built an empire from nothing. His father had immigrated from Busan with $70 and a dream. That dream died in a warehouse fire when Han was 12. The accident that took his father's life taught young Han his first lesson about the real world. Power protects, nothing else. Now he controlled the Korean organization that ran through Chicago like underground water, real estate, import-export, entertainment venues, all legitimate on paper, all connected to the network his father never lived to see. He sat alone at table 7 every Tuesday and Thursday at 2:30 p.m., the booth in the back corner, away from windows. Clear view of both exits, old habits. The other customers knew who he was, they always did. The way people's voices dropped when he entered. The way the owner, Mrs. Patterson, personally brought his order. The way men twice his age avoided eye contact. Fear was a language everyone spoke. Malika Rowan had been working at Rosie's for 3 years, 27 years old, raising a daughter alone, working double shifts to keep the lights on in their 1-bedroom apartment 6 blocks away. She'd watched the Korean man come and go for months, noticed how he never looked up from his phone, how he left cash on the table, always exact change plus a $20 tip, how the air itself seemed to shift when he walked through the door. Mrs. Patterson had warned her on the first day he appeared. "That man there, Han Seo-jin, don't stare, don't ask questions, just bring him what he orders and leave him be." Malika followed those rules without question. She had enough problems without adding a mafia boss to the list. But today, her babysitter had cancelled last minute. No family nearby to call, no money to pay someone else. So 5-year-old Imani sat at the counter doing her coloring book, legs swinging, while her mother rushed between tables. Imani loved the diner. Loved the smell of bacon and coffee. Loved when Mrs. Patterson snuck her a cookie. Loved watching people come and go, making up stories about their lives. She'd noticed the man in the corner booth weeks ago, the quiet one who always sat alone, who never smiled but never seemed mean either. Just sad, in a way that reminded her of the stray cat that used to sleep under their building's stairs. Her birthday was in 5 days, May 16th. She'd been talking about it for weeks, asking her mama about a party, about cake, about friends coming over. Malika had been dodging the questions with practiced ease. "We'll see, baby. Maybe this year. Let mama think about it." But Imani was smart for 5 years old. She'd noticed how her mama's face got tight when she asked, how the promises got vaguer each time. This morning she'd tried again at breakfast. "Can we have a party, mama? Just a small one?" Malika had been staring at the overdue electricity bill on the table. $347, due in 4 days. She had $98 in her checking account and another shift's worth of tips in her purse. "Baby, I don't think we can do a party this year," she'd said quietly. Imani's face had fallen. "Not even a little one? With just you and me?" "I can't even afford a cake right now, sweetheart." The words had come out sharper than intended. Malika had immediately pulled her daughter close. "I'm sorry, Mama's just tired. We'll figure something out, I promise." But Imani had seen her mother's eyes, red-rimmed from crying the night before when she thought her daughter was asleep. So when Imani saw the lonely man in the corner booth, something clicked in her 5-year-old mind. He was alone. She was going to be alone on her birthday. Maybe being alone together was better than being alone separately. Malika was at the register ringing up an order when it happened. Imani slid off her stool at the counter. She walked across the diner floor, her light-up sneakers blinking pink with each step, past the families in their booths, past the construction workers at the window seats, straight to table 7. The entire diner seemed to hold its breath. Han Seo-jin was reading a text from his lieutenant about a shipment coming in from Seattle. His coffee sat cooling in front of him. He didn't notice the small figure approaching until a shadow fell across his phone. He looked up. A little black girl with cornrows and a purple dress stood beside his table. She couldn't have been more than 5. Her brown eyes studied him with the kind of directness only children possess. "Hi," she said simply. Han stared at her. In his entire life, no one had approached his table uninvited. Grown men crossed the street to avoid him. Business rivals sent intermediaries rather than face him directly. Even his own people kept a respectful distance unless summoned. This child walked up to him like he was anyone else. "Will you come to my birthday?" Imani asked. The question hung in the air like smoke. Han's mind, trained to analyze threats and calculate responses in microseconds, went completely blank. He opened his mouth. No words came out. Imani smiled at him. The kind of smile that hasn't learned about danger or betrayal or the weight of the world. "It's on Saturday," she added helpfully. Then she turned and ran back to her coloring book, light-up shoes blinking all the way. The diner remained frozen for exactly 3 more seconds. Then Malika saw where her daughter had been. Her blood turned to ice. She practically ran to table 7. "Mr. Han, I am so sorry." The words tumbled out in a rush. "She doesn't understand. She's just a kid. Please, I'm not trying to bother you. I'm not asking for anything. There won't even be a party. I can't afford a cake. I shouldn't have brought her to work. I'm sorry." She was talking too fast, hands shaking, eyes darting between his face and the exit. Han listened to every word, watched how she held herself, saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the worn sneakers, the name tag that said Malika in fading letters, the fear that had nothing to do with him and everything to do with the weight she carried alone. For the first time in 8 months, Han Seo-jin spoke more than 4 words in this diner. "What's your daughter's name?" Malika blinked. Of all the responses she'd expected, a question wasn't one of them. Imani," she stammered. "Her name is Imani." Han nodded slowly. His dark eyes moved from Malika to the little girl at the counter, now completely absorbed in coloring what looked like a rainbow. "How old?" "She'll be 6, on Saturday." Malika's voice was barely above a whisper. "Mr. Han, really, you don't have to." "I didn't say I would come." His tone was neutral, not cruel, just factual. "I asked how old." Malika swallowed hard. "Right, of course, I'm sorry." She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. "You said there's no party." It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. "No, sir, I work double shifts just to keep us fed. Can't afford extras right now." "When's your shift end?" The question threw her completely off balance. 9 tonight." "Why?" Han pulled a business card from his wallet, plain white, just a phone number embossed in black ink. "Call this number tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Malika stared at the card like it might explode. "I don't understand." "You will." He stood, dropping 2 20s on the table for a $12 meal. "Tell Imani I said happy birthday." Then he walked out of the diner, leaving Malika holding a business card and 100 questions. She didn't sleep that night, The card sat on her nightstand, glowing in the dark like some kind of cursed object. What did he want? Why did he care? Men like Han Seo-jin didn't do kindness. Everyone knew that. But he'd said to call. And something in his voice hadn't sounded threatening. At 8:45 the next morning, Malika sat on her bed with her phone in her hand. Imani was eating cereal in front of cartoons, oblivious. At exactly 9 a.m., she dialed. The phone rang twice. "Ms. Rowan?" A woman's voice, professional and crisp. "Mr. Han is expecting your call. Please hold." Before Malika could respond, classical music filled her ear. She almost hung up. Almost. Then Han's voice came through the line. "You called. You told me to." "I did." A pause. "Do you trust me?" "I don't even know you." Smart answer. She could hear something in his voice that might have been approval. "I'm sending a car to your address at noon. It will take you and Imani somewhere. You can say no. The car will leave. You'll never hear from me again." Malika's heart hammered against her ribs. "Where? Shopping. I can't afford—" "I didn't ask if you could afford it." His voice was firm, but not harsh. "Their child should have a birthday party, that's all. Why do you care?" The line went quiet for so long she thought he'd hung up. "Because nobody came to mine either," he said finally. "Noon, black SUV, driver's name is Jay, your choice." He hung up. Malika stared at her phone. Every instinct screamed to ignore this. Men like him didn't help people. They used them, controlled them, destroyed them. But another part of her, the part that had watched her daughter's face fall when told there'd be no party, the part that was so tired of failing, whispered, "What if?" At 11:58, she stood at her apartment window with Imani, watching the street. At noon exactly, a black SUV pulled up. "Is that for us, Mama?" Imani's eyes were wide. Malika took a deep breath. "Yeah, baby. It is." The driver, Jay, was a Korean man in his 40s with kind eyes and a professional smile. He opened the door without a word, helped Imani into her car seat, and drove them to Michigan Avenue, to a children's boutique that Malika had only ever walked past quickly, not daring to look too long at price tags. A woman in an elegant dress greeted them at the door. "Ms. Rowan, Mr. Han sent us your daughter's measurements. We have several party dresses prepared. Would Imani like to choose?" Imani looked at her mother with such hope that Malika couldn't find words. She nodded. For the next hour, Imani tried on dresses, pink ones, purple ones, one with butterflies. The staff treated her like a princess. Malika sat in a velvet chair, watching her daughter spin and laugh and forget, just for a moment, about late rent and overdue bills. "This one, Mama." Imani held up a lavender dress with layers of tulle. "Can I really have it?" Malika's eyes burned with tears. "Yeah, baby, you can really have it." They left with the dress, matching shoes and a hairbow. The woman at the counter assured Malika everything was paid for. No receipt needed. Next, the driver took them to a bakery. Not just any bakery. The kind where wedding cake sat in windows like art. A baker showed them photos. "Mr. Han said to make whatever Imani wants." Imani chose a 2-tier cake with rainbow frosting and edible butterflies. By the time they returned home at 4 p.m., Malika felt like she'd entered an alternate reality. She found Han's number in her phone, called it. He answered on the first ring. "Did she choose a cake?" "Mr. Han, I can't let you—" "It's done. Not cold. Just final." "Is there somewhere you'd like to have the party? Your apartment? A park?" Malika looked around her tiny living room. "I don't know. I've never—" "The restaurant on 5th. Hayes Place. It's mine. I'll have it prepared for Saturday, 2 p.m. Invite anyone you want." "I don't have anyone to invite." The admission hurt to say out loud. Silence. "Then it'll be you, Imani, and me," Han said quietly. "If that's acceptable." Malika's throat tightened. Why are you doing this? Because I can, and because she asked. A pause. I'll see you Saturday, Ms. Rowan. He hung up before she could respond. Malika sat on her couch surrounded by shopping bags and cried, not from sadness, from something she'd almost forgotten existed. Hope. Saturday arrived with sunshine that felt intentional. Malika woke at 6 a.m., despite the party not starting until 2. She couldn't sleep. Nerves mixed with disbelief, mixed with something dangerous. What if this was real? She'd spent the last 3 days in a fog, going through the motions at work, answering Imani's endless excited questions, trying not to think too hard about the Korean Mafia boss who'd turned their world sideways with a business card and a memory of lonely birthdays. Mrs. Patterson had noticed. You okay, sweetie? You seem distracted. Just thinking about Imani's birthday, Malika had said, which was true. You figure out something for her? Yeah, someone's helping us. Mrs. Patterson's eyebrows had risen. Someone? Malika had just smiled and kept pouring coffee. Now, standing in her bathroom mirror at 7 a.m., she studied her reflection. She'd bought a dress, not an expensive one, just something from the Target clearance rack, but it was new. And it made her feel like maybe she could walk into a restaurant owned by Han Seo-jin without looking completely out of place. Imani bounced into the bathroom, already wearing her lavender dress, even though they had 7 hours before the party. Mama, do you think he'll really come? Malika knelt down, adjusting her daughter's collar. The man from the diner? Yeah. Imani's face was serious. I asked him to my birthday. It's not nice to not come when someone asks you. Baby, he's a very busy man. But he said happy birthday, through you. Imani's logic was airtight. That means he cares. Malika had no response to that. Did he care? Or was this some elaborate version of charity? A wealthy man throwing money at a problem because he could. But then she remembered his voice on the phone. Because nobody came to mine either. That hadn't sounded like charity. That had sounded like pain. At 1:30 p.m., Jay picked them up in the same black SUV. Hayes Place sat in the heart of Koreatown, an elegant Korean-American fusion restaurant with floor-to-ceiling windows and modern art on exposed brick walls. Malika had passed it 100 times, but never imagined walking through those doors. Jay held the door open. Mr. Han is waiting inside. Malika took Imani's hand and walked in. The restaurant was empty, except for one man. Han Seo-jin stood near a table decorated with balloons and streamers. He wore black slacks and a white button-down shirt. No tie, top 4 buttons undone. Elegant, casual. The neck tattoo she'd only glimpsed before was fully visible now. A minimalist crane in black ink, wings spread in flight. He looked up when they entered. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Imani broke free from her mother's hand and ran straight to him, light-up shoes blinking rapidly. You came! She threw her arms around his legs in a hug that caught him completely off guard. Han stood frozen, hands hovering awkwardly in the air, staring down at the child clinging to him like he was someone safe. Malika hurried over. Imani, let him breathe. But Han slowly, carefully, placed one hand on top of Imani's head, just for a second. Then he stepped back, clearing his throat. Happy birthday, Imani. Thank you for my party. Imani beamed up at him. And my dress. Do you like it? It's perfect. He said it simply, like stating a fact. Malika watched this exchange, feeling like she'd stepped into another dimension. This was the man people crossed the street to avoid, the man whose name made grown adults drop their voices to whispers, and he was complimenting her daughter's dress with the same serious tone he probably used for business negotiations. Thank you for all of this. Malika gestured at the decorations, the table set with real plates and cloth napkins, the buffet along the wall with Korean and American food, arranged like art. Han nodded. Sit. Food's ready. The next hour was the strangest of Malika's life. They sat at the table, the three of them, eating bulgogi and fried chicken and mac and cheese. Imani talked non-stop, telling Han about her school and her favorite color, purple, and her stuffed elephant named Mr. Trunks. Han listened to every word, occasionally asked questions in that same serious tone. What's Mr. Trunks's favorite food? Does your teacher read stories every day? Who's your best friend? Imani answered each one, completely comfortable with a man who made hardened criminals nervous. Malika picked at her food, watching them, watching how Han's shoulders slowly relaxed, how the hard lines around his eyes softened when Imani laughed, how he cut her chicken into smaller pieces without being asked. Who was this man? After they ate, Han nodded to someone Malika hadn't noticed. A woman emerged from the kitchen carrying the rainbow cake with 6 candles. Imani gasped. It's so pretty. They sang Happy Birthday. Han's voice was quiet, uncertain, like he wasn't sure he remembered the words. But he sang. Imani closed her eyes, made a wish, and blew out all 6 candles in one breath. What did you wish for? Malika asked. Can't tell or it won't come true, Imani said seriously, but she looked at Han when she said it, and Malika felt something shift in her chest. After cake, Han stood. I have something for you. He pulled a wrapped box from beneath the table. Imani tore into it with 6-year-old enthusiasm. Inside was a stuffed animal, a crane, soft and white with elegant wings. To keep Mr. Trunks company, Han said. Imani hugged the crane, then shocked everyone by hugging Han again. This time, he hugged her back, awkwardly, stiffly, but he did it. When Imani ran to show her mother the crane, Han and Malika stood alone for a moment. Thank you, Malika said softly. This was more than I could have ever given her. Han looked at Imani, now making the crane and elephant talk to each other. She deserved a birthday. So did you, Malika said before she could stop herself. His eyes snapped to hers, dark, guarded. But something flickered there. Recognition, maybe. Or grief. Yeah, he said quietly. I did. The party ended at 4:30. Imani had crashed on the booth seat. The crane clutched to her chest, exhausted from excitement. Han carried her to the SUV. Malika watched him move carefully, making sure not to wake her, and felt that dangerous thing in her chest expand. I can take her, she said. I have her. He slid Imani into her car seat with surprising gentleness. She's lighter than she looks. Malika climbed in beside her sleeping daughter. Han stood at the open door, hands in his pockets, looking uncertain for the first time since she'd met him. Mr. Han. Just Han. He said it quietly. You don't have to call me Mr. Han. The name felt strange on her tongue, personal. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. But it was everything. Her voice cracked. She'll remember this forever. Good. He stepped back. Jay will drive you home. He started to close the door. Wait. Malika didn't know what made her say it. Would you maybe want to come to the diner? For coffee, like before? Han studied her face. I don't think that's a good idea. The rejection stung more than it should have. Right, of course, you're busy. It's not that. He looked away. People like me don't have friends, Ms. Rowan. It's safer that way. For who? For everyone. He closed the door gently and walked back into the restaurant. Malika watched him go, feeling like something important had just slipped through her fingers. Over the next 2 weeks, Han didn't return to the diner. His usual table sat empty every Tuesday and Thursday at 2:30. Malika found herself looking at it more than she wanted to admit. Mrs. Patterson noticed. Your Mafia boyfriend stopped coming. He's not my boyfriend, and yeah, guess he found a better lunch spot, but it bothered her, more than it should. Imani asked about him every day. When can I see Han again? Do you think he liked my party? Can we invite him for dinner? Baby, he's a very busy man. He did something really nice for us, but now he has to go back to his life. But I want him in our life, Imani said with 6-year-old certainty. Malika didn't have an answer for that. On the third week, a man in a suit came into the diner during Malika's shift. He sat at table 7. Malika's stomach dropped. She'd seen men like this before, clean-cut, expensive watch, eyes that missed nothing. He ordered coffee. When she brought it, he pulled an envelope from his jacket. From Mr. Han. Malika's hands shook as she took it. Is he okay? The man's expression didn't change. He's fine. He wanted you to have this. Inside was a check, $10,000. Malika's knees nearly gave out. I can't accept this. It's not charity. The man's voice was neutral. Mr. Han said you mentioned late rent and bills. Consider it payment for services rendered. What services? I didn't do anything. You invited him to a birthday party. The man stood, leaving $20 for a $3 coffee. Mr. Han said that's worth more than money. But since you need money, this is his way of saying thank you. He left before Malika could protest. She stared at the check for the rest of her shift. $10,000. Enough to catch up on rent, pay off her debts, maybe even save some. But it felt wrong. Like accepting this would mean accepting that whatever had happened between them was over. Paid for. Done. That night, she called the number on the business card. The same professional woman answered. Mr. Han isn't taking calls. Please, just tell him I need to talk to him. I'm sorry, Ms. Rowan, he was clear. The line went dead. Malika sat on her couch, the check on the coffee table, and realized something that scared her. She didn't just want to thank him. She wanted to know him. The man who listened to a 6-year-old talk about stuffed animals, who sang happy birthday like he'd forgotten the melody, who looked at her daughter like she mattered. She wanted to know what made someone build walls that high, and maybe, possibly, help him tear a few of them down. 3 days later, she went to Hai's place. The hostess looked nervous when Malika asked for Han. He's in a private meeting. Tell him Malika Rowan is here. If he doesn't want to see me, I'll leave. 5 minutes later, the hostess returned. Follow me. She led Malika to an office in the back. Han sat behind a desk, papers spread everywhere, phone to his ear. He held up one finger. Wait. Malika waited. He finished his call and looked at her. You shouldn't be here. I know. Then why are you? Malika pulled the check from her purse and placed it on his desk. I can't take this. Why not? Because it feels like you're paying me to go away. Han's jaw tightened. That's not what this is. Then what is it? He stood, walking to the window. It's me trying to do something good without making it complicated. Life is complicated, Han. My life gets people hurt. He turned to face her. You and Imani deserve better than that. Don't I get a say in what I deserve? No. His voice was hard, final. You don't understand what I am, what I do. So explain it to me. I can't. Won't. Same thing. He moved toward her and she saw something break behind his eyes. I liked being at that party. I liked watching Imani blow out candles. I liked pretending just for a few hours that I was someone different, someone clean. His voice dropped. But I'm not. And the longer you're around me, the more danger you're in. So take the money, pay your bills, live your life, and forget you met me. Malika held his gaze. What if I don't want to? Then you're not as smart as I thought you were. The words should have stung, but they didn't. Because she saw the truth in his eyes. He was pushing her away to protect her. And that meant he cared enough to try. Keep the money, she said quietly. But I'm not forgetting you, and neither is Imani. She walked out before he could respond. Han didn't go to the diner for 6 weeks. He threw himself into work, closed 3 deals, expanded operations into Detroit, kept his mind busy and his schedule full. But every Tuesday and Thursday at 2:30, his phone would buzz with a photo from an unknown number. Week 1, Imani at school holding up a drawing. She made this for you. Week 2, Imani with the crane he'd given her. She says hi. Week 3, Imani eating cake. We're celebrating nothing, just wanted to. Week 4, Imani at the park. She asked when you're coming back. Malika never added commentary, never asked for anything. Just sent the photos and let him decide what to do with them. Han saved every single one. His lieutenant Minjae noticed. You've been distracted. I'm fine. You're staring at your phone like it's got answers to questions you haven't asked. Minjae leaned against Han's desk. This about that woman? The one from the diner? Han didn't answer, which was answer enough. Boss, you know the rules. No attachments, no vulnerabilities. I know the rules. Han's voice was ice. Then follow them. Minjae straightened, or changed them. After he left, Han sat alone in his office, staring at the latest photo. Imani with missing front teeth grinning at the camera. Changed the rules. He'd built his entire life on control, on distance, on never letting anyone close enough to be used against him. But that little girl had walked up to his table and asked him to her birthday party like he was just a person, like he mattered. And her mother had looked at him like maybe he could be more than what he'd become. Han made a decision. The next Tuesday at 2:30 p.m., he walked into Rosie's diner. The place went quiet, same as always, but this time Malika looked up from the register and smiled. Just smiled, like she'd been expecting him. He sat at table 7. She brought him coffee without asking. Set it down. Thought you'd found a better lunch spot. There isn't one. Flattery will get you free refills. She pulled out her order pad. Grilled cheese? And whatever Imani would like, if she's here. Malika's smile widened. She's at school, but I'll tell her you asked. Han nodded. Then, before he could overthink it, my birthday is next month, August 7th. Malika blinked. Okay? I've never had a party. Never celebrated it. He looked at her directly. Imani asked me to hers. Would she like to plan one for mine? Malika's eyes went soft. Han, I'm not good at this, at people, at letting anyone in. He gripped his coffee cup. But I don't want to be alone anymore, and you two make me think maybe I don't have to be. Malika sat down across from him, breaking every diner protocol. You know this is crazy, right? You're a Mafia boss. I'm a single mom waitress. This doesn't make sense. Nothing in my life makes sense. He looked at her, really looked at her. But when I'm around you and Imani, I feel like maybe it could. We come with complications. So do I. Malika laughed, quiet and real. That's an understatement. Is that a no? She reached across the table and placed her hand over his. That's a yes. We'll plan you a birthday party, but you have to promise me something. What? That you'll actually celebrate it. No phones, no work. Just you and us and cake. Han looked at their hands. Hers was smaller, warmer. Everything his wasn't. I promise. Over the next month, Han learned what it meant to have people who cared. Imani insisted on making his birthday invitations herself, crayon drawings of cranes and butterflies. Because you gave me a crane, so now you're part of the crane family. Malika taught him how to relax, how to sit in her tiny apartment eating takeout, while Imani showed him her schoolwork, how to laugh at animated movies he'd never bothered watching, how to just exist without calculating every word. He taught Imani basic Korean phrases, taught Malika about his parents, his childhood, the loneliness that had shaped him, told her things he'd never told anyone. And slowly, the walls came down. August 7th arrived with thunderstorms. Han woke in his penthouse alone as always and checked his phone. 17 messages from Malika and Imani, photos of decorations, updates on the cake. Imani's voice memo. "Happy birthday, Han. We're making your party so special." He smiled. Actually smiled. Because for the first time in 31 years, his birthday mattered. The party was at Malika's apartment, small, intimate, just the three of them. Imani had made a banner, "Happy Birthday, Han," in letters that got progressively smaller as she ran out of space. The cake was store-bought, nothing like the masterpiece he'd gotten for Imani, but it said "Happy 31st Birthday" in blue frosting, and had been chosen with care. They sang to him, Imani's voice high and off-key, Malika's soft and warm. Han closed his eyes and made a wish. Not for money, not for power, not for control, for this, for more moments like this, for a life that included birthday parties and crayon drawings and people who saw him as more than the monster he'd had to become. He blew out the candles. Imani clapped. "What did you wish for?" Han looked at her, then at Malika. "Something I didn't know I could have." "What?" "A family." Imani threw her arms around him. "You have us now." Malika's eyes filled with tears. "Yeah, you do." Han held Imani, met Malika's gaze over her daughter's head, and felt something he'd forgotten existed. Peace. 6 months later, Han Seo-jin still went to Rosie's diner every Tuesday and Thursday, but now he didn't sit alone. Imani sat across from him, doing homework while he answered emails. Malika brought them both coffee and grilled cheese, sneaking kisses to Han when she thought no one was looking. Mrs. Patterson watched from behind the register, shaking her head with a smile. "Never thought I'd see the day." The man who'd been untouchable had been undone by a 5-year-old's invitation. His business hadn't changed. He was still Han Seo-jin, still powerful, still feared. But now he had something to come home to, someone to protect, a reason to be better than what the world had tried to make him. Imani looked up from her math worksheet. "Han, is 7 times 8 56? Close. 56 is 7 times 8. "That's what I said," Malika laughed, squeezing his shoulder as she passed. Han looked around the diner, the same place he'd hidden in for months, trying to be invisible. Now it was where his life had started, all because a little girl hadn't been afraid to ask a simple question. "Will you come to my birthday?" The answer had changed everything. The answer would always be yes.